that yesterday and just how valuable it is to have the money for that specific reason. Because not a lot of the younger guys could do that. But he's got so much experience, and he's worked with KB so much in the past and in the offseason. Like, he's got the smarts to be able to be utilized in that position. That's why it sucks, too, that he's not going to be potentially out there on Sunday. We don't know that for sure yet, but it wasn't trending in the right direction this week in terms of practice. But that's just something that they're going to have to continue to work with. But I believe if Lonnie Johnson, if they get him back, I think they have to decide by Saturday, right? If he is to the active roster. Yep. So that would be a really beneficial move for them. So now it's just about how he kind of does in practice this week.
Lonnie Johnson has missed the last 4 games, so this is the first week that he is eligible to return from IR. He was placed on injured reserve prior to the Packers game. Played in 8 games this year, 3 tackles on defense, 2 more on special teams, kind of in a position where you don't really want to have that many tackles. So certainly not emblematic of what he's been able to do on defense for this team this year, but certainly a guy that would be a welcomed addition back on this defense that could use all the help they can get stopping the pass.
Yeah, that's anything that they can get right now. That's kind of the motto of this defense, and it's carried still by its leaders and Kevin Byard and Jeffrey Simmons. But, like I said, on that back end, the way that things are going for Christian Fulton right now, it scares me or worries me a little bit because he's kind of been in and out throughout the season dealing with different injuries. Okay. And we haven't even seen him at practice this week. So I would guess that he's not going to be available. I believe he's dealing with a groin issue, and those things can take some time because we've seen it with Elijah, who's now on IR, and we don't know if he's going to be back, which comes to the point that there's only one more move I believe that they can make, taking someone off IR.
And that's if Cunningham and Johnson do
get
officially
activated.
come back. So if you bring those 2 guys back, you have one more move that you can make to bring somebody off of injured reserve. So you're essentially looking at either David Long or Kyle Phillips will not be playing for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and my bet's more on David Long to come back.
Right.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think they ultimately saved that last spot for him because he would be eligible for that Week 18 game in Jacksonville. That would be the first game he'd be available to come back and play.
Which could be big.
Yeah, as important as he's been to this defense, your fingers are crossed that that's the move that you can make at the end of the season. 615-737-1045, the number. We shift gears to college football after this, as Tennessee has another player opt for the draft, but someone who's not opting out of the Orange Bowl, where Darnell Wright will be playing for the Vols for one final time, making his 42nd start in the Orange Bowl. We'll tell you about his pro potential as well. Coming up next as Hour 2 begins, talking Vols on Remote Kayla and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
The holiday fun continues at Genesis Diamonds with the year's best finance offer now extended through Christmas Eve, fellas. Genesis loves last-minute shoppers. Genesis has a ton of great ideas, incredible value pieces, prices, and 5-year zero-interest financing. So you can splurge on that $9,000 diamond ring and pay just $150 a month. Or how about that $5,000 pair of diamond stud earrings, just $85 a month. You can even finance the sales tax. And you can use this amazing offer on anything. Designer engagement ring, classic like diamond pendants and bracelets. All Genesis hand-selected GIA-certified diamonds are included, and so are the luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Is this the year you treat someone or even yourself with a Rolex or that amazing diamond eternity band? At Genesis, they have the best holiday collection ever with case after case of headliner gifts that are more romantic and timeless than ever. And with Genesis guaranteed best value price and 5-year zero-interest financing, you can make this the best Christmas ever and still stay in budget. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds on approved credit.
7:01, good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk. The San Francisco 49ers, they are sitting pretty with Brock Purdy. The third-string quarterback threw for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns to help lead the Niners to a 21-13 win at the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football.
He looks right, comes left, throws down the sideline, wide open, George Kittle, 30, 20, cuts inside 10, cuts inside again, touchdown! San Francisco!
And for the Niners, with the win, they captured the NFC West title for the first time since 2019. C.J. Board, Traylon Burks, Christian Fulton, Dontrell Hilliard did not practice for a second straight day. Nate Davis, Derrick Henry, Amani Hooker, and Jeffrey Simmons did not practice yesterday. Meanwhile, Danico Autry was a limited participant for the second day in a row. Defensive back Lonnie Johnson returned to practice while he remains on injured reserve. Biletnikoff Award winner Jalen Hyatt became just the 13th player in Tennessee history to achieve unanimous All-America status. The junior receiver who has declared to enter the NFL draft earned first-team honors from all 5 of the NCAA-recognized All-America teams. Congratulations to him. Tennessee offensive tackle Darnell Wright declared for the 2023 NFL draft. He will play in the Orange Bowl against Clemson. He was an all-SEC first-team selection. And to the ice, the Jets defeated the Predators 2-1 in overtime. Nationals lost 5 in a row. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Seven a.m. hour off and running on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Our NFL veteran is missing today, but we're still acting like it's Friday because that's what we do on this show every single week. With Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Jonathan Schaefer making the show happen. Many say he is the best producer in the world.
Best producer in the world. The world. What am I, 2? You're best producer in the world.
And for those of you not watching on 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter, that was not Kayla Anderson talking today. That's because the best producer in the world found a clip of Kayla saying that probably earlier this week, and now against her will can have her say that anytime.
That's why he's the best producer in the world. I literally sound like I'm a toddler.
That was a separate cut, too, so you said it wrong twice.
Best
I
producer
can't.
in the world.
Clearly, I can't say it. The best producer in the world.
I talked over that one. I feel stupid.
Dang it! Dang it!
I can't believe I just made myself there. Do
That's
it again.
incredible.
We'll
The
do
best
it live.
producer in the world.
I did it to myself again.
Congratulations.
This is
you
just
played
not
yourself.
meant to be.
Honestly, that's a great way if we are saying something out of context that would get us in trouble.
Right?
To make sure that it doesn't get recorded is just have either ourselves like talk over it or someone else.
Because then it's not going to happen.
It's good to know.
We're working on the technology to where all of you are on separate audio tracks, so
we don't
that
need
that
to
can
do
no.
happen.
We don't need to do that. I think that's perfect. I think we're perfectly fine the way the studio is.
I heard your coffee was perfectly fine.
My
this
coffee is
morning.
great this morning.
Wonder
and
why.
I'm starting to think that Ramon Foster is the problem.
Dude.
Yeah.
As much as Ramon
He's here?
complains about, Ramon, is that you? Are you in here somewhere? No,
Don't
he's not.
tease me like that.
Okay, yep. And appreciate it, Ramon. And we have like a brand new pot of coffee that was just made in the kitchen. I went in there in the last break, and I could already smell the Folgers that I typically don't like.
Yeah.
Dung.
We've had that.
Usually it tastes burnt.
Dung.
But today I took my first sip of Folgers, and it actually tasted really good. And Ramon Foster, I think you're the problem.
Oh,
I think
Come
you're the
on,
one.
man.
You're the one making it wrong.
Ramon is making that jet black fuel.
He is
For real?
for real.
Yeah,
Ramon.
for real,
Yeah, for real.
Ramon. My goodness.
It really is like if all of us are replaceable.
Yeah.
Because Jonathan Schaefer has enough
bots.
clips of us saying things out of context that you could just like play like a DJ board and just make an entire show for us.
Yeah, it'd be a very interesting show, though. Because we'd be saying things and people would be like, what is this?
So do you watch Parks and Rec at all?
No, I don't.
It's a good one. And
I've heard it's great.
Schaefer, you're a Parks and Rec guy.
I didn't really watch it.
Okay. Well,
Oh.
I'll
A little
just
bit.
stand in the soapbox alone then. And
Well, you stand alone often.
oh, that's fine. And there's a season where one of the main characters is working on a political campaign, and the guy, like the senator that they're working with, is just a robot, and he only says like 3 sentences.
Yeah.
And he'll just sit alone in his office, smiling into a wall, and someone will walk in and he'll say, "Hey, and be careful here in D.C. It's a hot one today." And just everything he says is like, "All right, great to meet you."
Just
and
randomly.
Be careful. It's hot out there today. Pretty muggy here in D.C. Okay, and like that's just all he says. And so I sometimes I feel like that's just what Jonathan Schaefer
Would do.
like records from us. It's just like, come on, man.
What?
But
You
then it would
talking to me? Like,
it'd
just stuff
be
like that.
kind of like edgy, though, I feel like,
It would be.
the way that we are.
Well, because most of the things that Jonathan Schaefer records that we play are very much against our will.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fake news media striking
First
again.
of all, that's completely inaccurate.
How
This
so?
show is recorded on 3 different devices.
Well, that's true.
There's nothing recorded against your will. Everything is recorded as assigned to your deal.
My name is Will, so pretty much everything you record is against me. So it's recorded against my will.
Well, let's also change
and
that.
your will, because
I-
your will is me.
I use many things against your will, but the recording is not against your
Perfect.
The best producer in the world.
will. We got that one.
See what I did there?
You also, do you realize too that, so there's a clock that's above your head?
Yes, I
On camera?
see it
And
sometimes.
Jonathan Schaefer, like,
Do you wanna know why?
positions the cameras here. That way
I
he
can't
can
believe this.
look up and see what the clock says in your shot.
Yeah.
And can then go back and find like anything to clip from us.
That's why my headroom here is a little bit more
Yeah, that's
than
right.
y'all's over there.
That's right.
And I started to think, I wonder why. And then I realized, okay, that's Shafe doing something back there.
Look,
working
if-
his magic.
For all the people that have worked with the worst producers in the world, it is fun working with Jonathan Schaefer.
Yeah.
And now that is going to be used against my will, but I really don't care. Which is why I just went ahead and leaned into it. But like there are times, like doing a minor league baseball game at one point, our mics were on in a commercial break when they weren't supposed to be. And we were talking about
no.
a player that was like too lazy running to the ball. And I did not know Ramon Foster at this point. So I did not have the wisdom that your mic is always hot.
Eek.
And the guy's sister tweeted at us of like, if you're going to talk bad about my brother in the field, at least do so with your mic off.
Dang.
So I assure you that there are producers out there that aren't the best producers in
Yeah.
the world.
Or that will do it on purpose. I'm
That's
not going to lie. There
Yeah,
are some
that's
out there.
At least we don't have a teleprompter that needs to be run at a right pace, because that's a whole other
You don't
job
want that,
for a
folks.
producer.
You do not want a teleprompter running that and talking. I
Do
had to
you?
do that at my first job.
Yeah. Like
roll
run
the
it and talk
roll
at
the
the same
prompter
time.
and talk. You had a foot pedal you could work with, or you could do it with like one on the table. I preferred the foot pedal because that just allowed me to look at the prompter a little bit more instead of dealing with something on my side.
Oh,
But it was crazy.
that's terrible.
That's
I mean,
multitasking at another level.
So did you prefer to have someone else running it? Or
Yes.
would you rather, well, no. Like, so would you rather either be automated or have someone else run it?
Yeah, so here's the thing. The only thing that you always kind of roll the dice on when somebody else is running it is if it's a new person.
Yes.
So if they're new to the job and they haven't been doing teleprompter and they're learning the pace of the anchors, that's like a whole nother thing. You're kind of in a trust mode. But usually I'd rather have somebody running a prompter, and
Yeah.
you just have to be ready if they get behind. You have to have enough knowledge, I would hope, to know what you're talking about and go off script a little. But some
Sure.
people don't. I'm Ron Burgundy.
You stay classy, San Diego.
No, you can't be bringing in joints. Oh, God.
Again, recorded of
Forgot
Kayla
about
Anderson.
that one.
No, that's fair. In student television, when you work as a college student doing this, everyone's new.
Yeah.
That could be working your prompter.
That's
like,
true.
We were doing anchor auditions in our like student TV, like 300 level class senior year. And I was like, I've just got a random student that's never touched a teleprompter.
I would not trust
running
that.
a
So that was this
prompter
spring
like
for you, right,
A
Will?
reel. Yeah, no, that was a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago. I just finished
That
exams
was this
like last
spring.
week.
Congratulations
You're in the
on
middle of
graduation.
finals, aren't you?
No, the only reason I'm here right now is I'm home for Christmas to do the show. So, like, if you guys, I hope you guys are ready because when I go back to school, second week of January, it's going to be tough. So,
We're going to pack you a little care pack, Will.
it's all right. All right. And it's as soon as you started talking to me like I was 4, then I think the bit's over.
I feel like
615
Will's bigger
737.
sister on this show. His big sis.
No, that's
second
fair.
big sis because he has a real big sis.
I do have a big sister, Claire. She's delightful. Depending on the day. No, I'm just kidding.
But
Claire's
don't you
great.
feel like I
you
kind of
don't-
treat you like a little brother? Like I give you advice?
Yeah, but in like a good way.
Yeah.
Your advice hasn't let me down yet.
Yeah.
I mean, jury's still out on that, but
No, I wouldn't do that. Nah.
because I would rather be big sistered versus mothered.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
a
get
whole
mothered
different.
well. I mean,
No.
my own mother will tell you I don't get mothered well.
A lot of us don't.
Did you kind of just insult your mom?
No. I did like what my mom says this
Your
to people
mom's
all the time.
awesome.
No, my mom is great.
Your
like
mom's the best.
I'm
Yeah,
very
she is.
close with both my parents and
Yeah.
love them to death. But my mom will like tell people that about me and my sister specifically. Like she'll be like, "Oh yeah, but like not that I wasn't a rebel, obviously. Like I think y'all know me well enough to know I wasn't necessarily a
No.
problem child, but my mom's like, "Yeah, you just kind of do your own thing. You
Yeah.
just don't really like to be mothered. That's fine." But she'll like tell other people that.
And
so
she's
I don't
okay
feel
with
bad
that.
saying
'Cause she
it.
had
Yeah,
2 other kids.
I turned out
She had
okay.
a mother.
I think.
Before
I hope.
you.
Maybe. Jury's still out on that one, too. 615-737-1045.
Call in with your opinions,
If you
folks.
disagree with me, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. Darnell Wright's going to play at the Orange Bowl for Tennessee. Right tackle announcing on social media yesterday that he will turn pro after his senior season, but will play for Tennessee against Clemson.
I like this, but at the same time, I get why other people probably would be like, are you sure you want to play?
Right?
This is why it's such an individual-based thing, and it's really just based on what the player, do they feel like they still owe that team something? They don't worry about the injuries because they think injuries could happen at any point, right?
Yeah.
But draft stock, you always do worry about it with some of these guys. You know that Jalen Hyatt is clearly not playing in the bowl game. Cedric Tillman not playing. That's their prerogative. They have reasons for that. I thought it was interesting too because Mel Kiper had him right outside the top 10 of prospects in terms of ranking them, and he is going to go to the Senior Bowl. I believe he accepted the invite.
Yep.
So there's another opportunity, like we had been mentioning, for him to really kind of up his stock and maybe float up into a top 10 situation. Because a lot of guys do that in the Senior Bowl, the week of practice. They catch a lot of eyes. I feel like this is a guy who could certainly do that.
And Matt Miller the other day on Twitter at NFL Draft Scout says he's the best right tackle in the draft, in his opinion.
Yeah.
And so the value of right tackles versus left tackles obviously different in the NFL draft. But we're going to talk a lot about how there are a couple of Vols over the course of this draft season that could fit in Nashville.
Yeah.
Darnell Wright's one of them. I would say certainly coming up over these next couple of weeks.
And question really quick on that.
Yeah.
Do you think that they think maybe I can up my draft stock even more if I play in a bowl game? Do you think that's even a thing?
I think there's a possibility there against a really good defensive front for Clemson.
Okay.
For him. Plus, he's not giving up first-round money because he's likely not a first-round
First-rounder
guy.
anyway.
I think I've seen Darnell Wright as a third-round pick, second-round pick, kind of in that ballpark. So you feel like if you have one big primetime performance, you play yourself maybe up a slot.
Sure.
But you're not going to play yourself out of that spot either. So
Good point.
coming up next, Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News-Sentinel joins the show. Big weekend for Tennessee basketball in Arizona. We'll talk a little bit of hoops with him ahead of a top 10 matchup for Tennessee. But who stands to benefit the most from the opt-outs and all the different pro announcements these past couple of days? And a video on social media yesterday of, well, the guy that I think Tennessee fans are very interested to hear from very, very soon. Nico Iamaleava is on campus. What are Mike Wilson's expectations for him coming up over these next few weeks and months? That's next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
Iamaleava
In-stock inventory is back at Two Rivers Ford. The truckloads of vehicles we've been waiting for all year have made it past all the supply chain kinks and onto Two Rivers Ford lot. Finally, I'm talking about F-150s, Explorers, Edges, Escapes. Two Rivers Ford has them all in every color and with a variety of trim levels and options. And don't forget, Two Rivers Ford sells all non-specialty new Fords below MSRP, so you're going to get a great price. And when it comes to financing, Two Rivers is offering great financing rates this month starting at 2.9%. Also, I always like to mention that when you do business with Two Rivers Ford, you're doing business with a local dealer that's been around since 1983 with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. These are great people, and you'll be in great hands when you deal with them. Just look at their Google reviews. So get online at tworiversford.com or call them at 1-800-900-1000 or simply go see their non-commissioned sales team at Mount Juliet, just 7 miles east of B&A Airport. But whatever you do, do it fast before the in-stock inventory is gone. Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people.
It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors on a 104.5 The Zone. With Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Ramon Foster, a very well-deserved day off this morning. Jonathan Schaefer making the show happen. And the sounds of the 1975 of the Nashville airwaves, because we go to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, and we hear from our good friend Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel talking Vols with us this morning. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Well, good. Now I'm all distracted by the music, and I can't even focus on anything else.
He does. He is like a big fan.
No, I'm telling you. Mike is like one of the only people I know that's as big a fan of that band as me.
Wow.
It's an addiction, and it's a problem, and I need help.
It's an addiction. So do you listen to like a song by them every single day, like 3 times a day?
Oh, gosh. This is not going to be healthy.
Oh, I love it.
According to my Spotify on repeat, there's definitely a couple songs by them that I listen to every single day.
Oh, gosh. That's great.
Were you in like the top percentage of 1975 listeners in your Spotify Wrapped this year, Mike?
I wasn't, but that's because that album dropped in November 14th,
right.
October 14th, one of the two. It's too late in the year to really annihilate my music taste for the year.
Well, also, too, that when you were in Nashville you were here for the Colorado basketball game, right, in Bridgetown? And then
Look at that.
Mike was here covering Tennessee basketball, and they were playing in Nashville that night. Literally
That's
the same day
crazy.
while you were here. So you didn't get to go to that, did you?
We don't need to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, that would stink.
So I shouldn't tell you that I had tickets that I was not able to use for that concert that night because I was also working. That would be a bad idea for me to tell you that also.
Never call this number again, any of you.
We've just made his day
Perfect.
awful.
Anyway, well, we always love having Mike on, so I won't burn any more bridges and go down that rabbit
But let's
hole
also
even further.
remember, Mike once went to Kayla and said, "Hey, when are you going to have me on again?"
That's fair.
Because Will wasn't texting me anymore.
Yeah, see?
Jerk. Mike, the penalty's offset.
Will's
Replay the down.
he got too big,
No,
you know?
Relax.
Too big for his britches.
Mike, we've been joking that Will gets to do the show this week because he's home from classes from UT.
Thing is,
no.
Mike knew me when I was actually covering UT as a student. So Mike knew me at that point where I would not be able to cover certain games because I was going home from UT. Yeah. Anyway,
That's
Mike,
tough, though.
you were one of the only people too, Mike, that you would cover baseball with us, and our friend Home Run Harvey, one of my buddies, Rob, who had a column named Home Run Harvey in the student newspaper, and Mike to this day still just absolutely. Like we will never let him live that down or forget it, that his column name was Home Run Harvey. But Mike and I bonded over Tennessee baseball, Mike, before people really cared about what Tennessee baseball was doing, which they certainly do now.
It's true, and for the record, Rob Harvey is still saved in my phone as Home Run Harvey.
He had to do it.
Mike fits this show well because he fits the
does.
amount of just pettiness of this show. So this is why we love having Mike on.
Fits like a glove.
Love it. So, Mike, can you confirm or deny that you will also be opting out of the Orange Bowl and declaring for the NFL Draft? But in all seriousness, who stands to benefit the most, you feel like, from Tennessee's perspective, from the opt-outs and all the draft announcements going into the Orange Bowl?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, they've got 3 at this point of NFL announcements with Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Darnell Wright. Hyatt and Tillman opting out. Darnell Wright saying he will play. Not too shocking, I think, with the 2 opt-outs. I'm surprised Darnell Wright is playing. Obviously, that's a big boost for Tennessee. He's been a very consistent offensive lineman for them throughout the year. But, I mean, Tillman dealt with injuries all year. Just at this point, kind of got to take where you are and go for it. Hyatt is being talked about as that mid-first round, potentially wide receiver just because of his speed. So, again, go get that money. Darnell Wright is interesting, though, because I think Darnell Wright might be the second highest drafted Vol in this draft behind Jalen Hyatt. So seeing him decide to play is interesting. He's going up against a big-time Clemson defensive line, so maybe he sees that as an opportunity to boost his profile more. But that is a guy who I think is going to go off the board pretty early as well.
And, Mike, it's interesting, too, when you think about the recruiting pitch Josh Heupel gets to use for having Jalen Hyatt and having these – high draft pick wide receivers specifically. Doesn't it kind of feel like it's better for Josh Heupel for Jalen Hyatt just to not risk it in the Orange Bowl and be a first round pick? Because I think you'd certainly rather have Jalen Hyatt and the recruiting potential of, hey, I just developed this guy into a first-round wide receiver in 2 years, more so than you'd rather have an Orange Bowl win and maybe he gets dinged up and hurts his draft stock, right?
I will say I think recruiting is interesting because different things matter to different players.
Sure.
But I do think in the grand scheme of things, guys dream of the NFL more than they dream of winning the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think that is a different level of pitch in terms of being able to walk into a recruit's house and say, here's the players that I as a coach have put into the NFL. Here's how highly drafted they were. This is what you can become, opposed to, hey, man, your junior year, play your cards right. We might go down to Miami and win the Orange Bowl. So, yeah, I think that does carry a little bit more weight typically across the board, even though different things matter to different people.
Mike, what's kind of, we're not in Knoxville, so I don't know how, people are talking about this bowl game. Like, are people excited about the bowl game? Because now at this point, you've got transfers that have announced that they're, moving out of whatever college they're, in right now, or you have guys that are declaring for the NFL draft. It seems like these bowl games year after year are getting less relevant. The Orange Bowl clearly has a ton of tradition, but I'm just curious, like, what's the talk about it there in Knoxville?
Yeah, it is different just overall nationally from a bowl perspective, especially with the bigger programs playing in them, because you do have a lot of guys potentially opting out. You're going to have transfers as well. Just the overall scene of those things has changed. Like, I put out a prediction the day that the bowl game was announced of a final score, winner, all that, and it's like, well, now it's probably changed just because of the opt-outs and all those things. But I do think there's an obvious excitement. I mean, Tennessee hasn't been on this level of bowl game in a long time. So being able to get down there to Florida, face Clemson in a big game, I mean, those things still matter. I mean, there's a reason a guy like Darnell Wright is playing.
Yeah.
I mean, these things still matter to people, even though there is an obvious round of opt-outs, transfers, and all of that.
When it comes to just Joe Milton and having that stage for him as well, and kind of what it could determine next year in terms of the quarterback position there, because there will be some battles, just how much do you expect to see out of him in this game?
Yeah, I think he needs to show well. I do think it's somewhat of an audition for that starting job next season. I mean, he's obviously started a lot in college football, both at Michigan and starting a couple games at Tennessee last year. He's played a few games this year, started once. Like, the coaches know what he's capable of. They've seen him in enough games. They've seen him in 2 years' worth of practices. They know his skill set and what he can do, but it's a matter of at some point putting this together, making a good statement, because he should be the favorite going into next season to be the starting quarterback. And this is an opportunity for him to really plant his flag in that, and say, yeah, this is my job to lose. It's not an open battle going into the spring. And this is, that's kind of that audition to some extent.
Mike Wilson for the Knoxville News Sentinel with us this morning on Ramon Kayla and Will. Mike, it's interesting the kind of the vibe around that for Joe Milton, because I feel like people have rallied around him, and his relationship with Hendon Hooker makes him such a likable guy. But when you think about Nico Iamaleava coming in next year and just the expectations for that guy, it feels like things could turn really sour really quickly with the fans' interaction with him if things don't start off the way fans expect it to at the beginning of the next season.
Highly touted quarterbacks are really tough like that. I mean, they immediately become something the fan base latches on. So we saw it with Harrison Bailey a few years ago, just the fan base saying, well, Jarek Arantano's not getting it done, got to start Harrison Bailey. I saw it when I covered Michigan State. They had a kid named Damian Terry come in 2013. It was kind of a four-man battle. Other ones weren't getting it done, yada, yada. And every time the fans want the freshman. They want to see the highly touted guy they've heard about. And it can really flip a fan base in terms of what the expectations are and what they want when the starter's not performing well. But I do think when you look at Milton, just the overall profile of him, that tantalizing arm talent, the depth of experience, the knowledge of the offense, there's got to be some level of grace and leash with him at the start of next season, assuming he's the guy, because he's got so much going for him. And walking in as a freshman, even a five-star freshman, it's hard. It's hard to walk into an offense, understand the system, go up against SEC defenses. I mean, it's not something that every single freshman does, let alone is capable of doing. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch, but I do like to think that Milton has that leg up just based on all those things.
Okay, Mike, switching gears, a top 10 matchup for Tennessee basketball against Arizona this weekend.
Woo.
And incredible night and day what this team looks like since that loss to Colorado on the night of a great concert here in Nashville a couple weeks ago. How specifically did that Colorado loss help this team? Where do you feel like they've improved the most out of that performance?
That was disrespectful.
You know me.
I think for the most part, you've seen Tennessee kind of polish up that defense because that second half against Colorado was pathetic defensively. I mean, Colorado is not an elite team, not an elite offense. They were getting to the rim, scoring pretty easily on Tennessee, and that was kind of the alarming thing about that performance was Tennessee's defense dropped off. They've been pretty darn steady. With that said, second half against Maryland wasn't great in that capacity, but I think that was kind of a simultaneous offense-defense issue. Turnovers, struggling with the press kind of led to some of those issues as well. But, yeah, that to me is where they've cleaned it up. I mean, there's a reason they're ranked number 1 in adjusted defensive efficiency right now. They're really showing that. That's the way they're playing the game. Arizona coach Tommy Lloyd called it a fist fight. I've definitely tweeted a few times. It just looks like a miserable experience to play against Tennessee. Jemai Meshack makes life miserable. Santiago Vescovi makes life miserable. So, yeah, it doesn't look like a fun thing for opponents to go against right now.
Mike, do you go, like, on the road? I didn't know if you go on the road. Like, will you go on the road to Tucson?
I won't be at Tucson.
Okay.
I was in New York last week, though.
You were in New York. So I used to cover Arizona basketball. So Arizona basketball is what, like, Tennessee football is in Knoxville. That's what Arizona basketball is in Tucson, right? So the games are crazy. They're always sold out. The environment is through the roof. But last year, Tennessee handed Arizona its first loss of the season. And I see this as like an out-of-conference rivalry already starting to build. Like, do you kind of see it as that?
I mean, it's got potential to be. I think the beautiful thing about Arizona basketball is just that stretch of the 2000s. You think about Lute Olson. I mean, it's got a really neat past 20 years of history or so. Obviously, some of the recent stuff not as pretty, but Lute Olson and those teams were incredible. So I think there's a possibility there. The dynamic that works in favor of this becoming a more routine thing is obviously Rick Barnes has a close relationship with Gonzaga coach Mark Few, and Tommy Lloyd is from Gonzaga. I mean, that's where he was as an assistant associate coach before jumping over to Arizona. So there's potential for that. I mean, I think that would be a really good matchup year in and year out because it looks like Arizona's kind of going to be back at that level again on a consistent basis, and that would make it pretty interesting.
Mike, for the Tennessee football fan that is just now introducing themselves to this basketball team again for games like this weekend, what is unique about this team versus past Rick Barnes teams? Because you got guys like Tobe Awaka who are quickly becoming household names because of the way that they've played recently. I mean, the guy's plus 17 against Maryland in a big win over the weekend. And I feel like there are a lot of fans, as you know, that are just starting to really dive deeper into this team versus just a cursory glance at a midweek game and are finding out this team is pretty balanced and has got a pretty big potential.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the defense. I mean, it's a funny one because defense in basketball isn't necessarily sexy at this point, you know? Like, people want to see the Steph Curry threes. People want to see dunks, blocks, which are defensive, but they want to see the big highlight plays and the splashy shooting and such. And Tennessee has a little bit of that shooting. Hasn't really rounded into form in that just yet this season, but they're kind of trying to make defense a sexy identity because the way they play it is very impressive. And that's definitely what they want to hang their hat on throughout this whole season. You know, they've been a top 5 adjusted defensive efficiency team the past 2 years as well, number 1 right now. So they're doing it at their highest level. And I actually think their rating right now is the highest in the Ken Pom era, which is about 20 years. Wow. So they're playing defense at a very, very crazy level right now.
Well, Mike, we have one question from the audience this morning, something we don't often get. Our buddy Grant Ramey has texted me and has written in and asked, it says, ask Mike why he can't beat me at Pop-A-Shot. Mike, your thoughts?
That is absolute nonsense. I have photo proof that I won the other night in New York. That is not accurate. We will not stand for these lies being shared across these airways.
Grant Ramey, our friend from On3 Sports, now known as the fake news media, I guess, from Mike Wilson on this show. All right, this is good to know. I'm always glad to start another feud because typically, Mike, our only feuds on this show are just with Buck Rising, who comes on after us. So it's good to start another feud. So we'll try to get Grant on and have him tell his side of the story next.
My Friday has been erupted.
It really has.
75 trolling and Grant Ramey lying.
I love it. Mike, thank you for the time.
Thanks, Mike.
As always, we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Kayla.
Oh, you're
wow.
welcome,
All right.
Mike.
Appreciate it. Thank
Look
you,
at
Mike.
the way he ended that
And
one.
now that's going to be turned into
Way
a drop,
to
too. Isn't it?
go.
All right, well, I side with Grant now. Mike
Let's
cannot win and pop a
go.
shot, but he can come on this show, I guess, anytime. Love it. 615-737-1045, the number. A social media clip making the rounds from Tennessee's football facility yesterday that has to do with the new 5-star quarterback. And yes, all of the rules apply to him as the Nico Iamaleava hype train has left the building. We'll tell you about what happened next. We're Mo, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
Change is coming, and you need to be prepared for it. Hey, this is Ramon Foster, and did you know that new regulations are coming soon that could increase the price of replacing your older HVAC system by over 20%? That's why you need to act now and get that older system replaced by my friends at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. They offer 18 months with no payments, meaning you can lock in today's price and not have to pay until spring of 2024. Or you can get up to $1,500 off a new HVAC system. Now, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling is always backed by a 10-year parts and labor warranty on York products. And that's because Spring Hill Heating and Cooling is also a York certified comfort expert company. And if you need repair work, they offer free service calls with their repairs, plus low monthly payments on those repairs. They are the heating and cooling company that can take care of all of your HVAC needs. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, available anytime at springhillac.com.
It's 104.5 The Zone's 12 days of Christmas. Each day now through Christmas, we'll be giving you a chance to win great prizes on our Facebook page. Like or follow us at facebook.com/1045 The Zone. Prizes range from concert tickets to autographed items to team apparel and more. Don't miss out on the holiday fun. Head to our Facebook page now for more info on this contest. You know where to go, 1045thezone.com/contests.
It's Ramon, Kayla,
boy.
and Will on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. Look, our show name is so long. It was bound to happen where
See,
I stumbled
now we're
over one of
getting
the words in our
ourselves.
show name.
It's hurting us now.
I know. Yeah, Mike Keith is on with us in hour 3, and he is leading the charge that we need a shortened show name. But I'm going to do what Ramon Foster does when he's backed in a corner. I'm just going to start jabbing and say, well, don't give me such a long name to say, then I won't mess up.
There you go.
I'm kidding. Mike Wilson tweeting back at us this morning.
Are you?
Saying, I love being on Kayla's radio show.
Thanks, Mike.
Responding back to us. Unbelievable.
It just got petty.
Unbelievable. 615-737-1045, the number as we talk Vols in hour 2. So Nico Iamaleava, with new NCAA rules, can practice with Tennessee leading up to the Orange Bowl.
Iamaleava?
That's right. And he hasn't been officially announced as a Tennessee player. Tennessee waits until the end of signing day, and that's the custom for these teams, is that on National Signing Day coming up next week is when they will officially make all these announcements of all the players, and they do such a good job. Mike Keith involved with that as well, with VFL Films and the entire crew up there in Knoxville. So they'll officially announce him later on when National Signing Day happens, but he tweets out this video yesterday, Nico Iamaleava does, and already had to do push-ups on his first day in the facility.
I saw that.
Walking through the training room. And again, this was a big point of discussion over the past couple of weeks with Jeremy Banks and Hendon Hooker maybe getting into it a little bit over somebody stepping on the power tee.
Mm-hmm.
So the rule at Tennessee is you step on the power tee in the training room or locker room, and you have to do 10 push-ups. And Nico made the mistake on day 1. And the video basically went, 5-star quarterback, still doing push-ups when you step on the tee.
Iamaleava?
Great. I love saying that name, too.
It's great.
It's like Uiagalelei. Once you get it, you just want to say it.
You want to flex a little bit.
You want to flex, like Antetokounmpo. You know, like you want to just be like, I can say that.
That's right.
That's right. No, he had some good form. I was impressed with the form that he had. That we were talking about this in the break. Like, he is a tall dude.
Yeah.
6'7", played volleyball down in Long Beach. Had offers to go play volleyball in college as well. You said he's just a long guy.
Yeah. Yeah, super long legs and long arms. Like, he's just like he looks more like a volleyball player than a quarterback in a lot of ways. Tennessee fans are already
They're already ready for this.
Start him.
Yeah.
Like, it took one picture of him putting his red practice jersey on his Instagram. It's like, okay, so when's he going to start? Like week 4, week 5, Poor Joe Milton.
I know Joe's just stepping into this.
But, I mean, Mike makes the point, though, that this is as big an audition for Joe Milton as it is anyone else. And I think you can make the argument that the Vanderbilt game, the rain, everything going on in that game, the getting back on the same page with a lot of wide receivers that he's not typically sharing the field with. It was a big talking point coming out of the Vanderbilt game, but Jalen Hyatt's not going to be there, and Cedric Tillman's not going to be there. The receivers that are going to be on the field with Joe Milton in this game are the receivers that he's been working out with at practice since the summer as the second quarterback.
And that's the great point that you make. Not only that, because he's kind of familiar with them, but he also should be at this point mature enough, right, to handle kind of some of the criticism that comes along with it. His maturity, you would hope at this point, is there. He's been kind of Hendon Hooker's support system when things, when Hendon gets hurt, you see how close those guys are. So you hope kind of Hendon's mentality of overcoming adversity is kind of rubbed off on him a little bit too. So I think Mike's right in saying it's his job to kind of lose at this point, but Nico's coming on with full steam, and he seems like a likable guy. And look, those training camp battles are crazy sometimes.
Oh,
and so anything can happen.
Yeah. It certainly can, and it feels like to me just early indications that Florida game is going to kind of be a turning point. for those two guys, because at that point, Nico Iamaleava will play in one of those first 2-3 games, right? I mean, Virginia in Nissan Stadium, Nico's going to have a chance to get on the field and begin the controversy. And Taven Jackson probably will too at that point.
Yeah.
It feels like that Florida game, though, is, all right, politics aside, who had the head start doesn't matter at that point. Whoever gives Tennessee the best chance to win has to be starting at that point. And that, I think, is the opportunity where Nico is going to have the chance to stake his claim by the Florida game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's just, I think it's how much can he just catch on, right? How much can he learn right away? And it seems like he's a smart guy that he can do that. And then if that's the case and you have him starting that young and just the future for him, it could be crazy.
Look out, world.
Look out.
For sure.
Big Orange coming and crushing people.
615-737-1045, the number. A recap of the Titans injury report yesterday from St. Thomas Sports Park coming up next. And the IR dilemma facing the Titans. We mentioned it at the beginning of the show, but want to reset it and have the conversation because the math is starting to get more and more specific, and the Titans know, I think now, who likely is done for the year and who they want to get back from injured reserve. That's coming up at halftime of the show. Mike Keith as well in hour 3. Much more to come on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Friday edition, and we're acting like it on 104.5 The Zone. Ramon, Kayla, and Will.
It is 8 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk. The San Francisco 49ers currently sitting pretty with Brock Purdy.
He looks right, comes left, throws down the sideline, wide open, George Kittle, 30, 20, cuts inside 10, cuts inside again, touchdown, San Francisco!
The third-string quarterback threw for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns to help lead the Niners to a 21-13 win at the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. Of local interest, Gallatin native, former Green Wave star Jordan Mason, 64 rushing yards, including a 55-yard run for the Niners, who captured the NFC West title for the first time since 2019. C.J. Board, Traylon Burks, Christian Fulton, Dontrell Hilliard did not practice for a second straight day. Nate Davis, Derrick Henry, Amani Hooker, and Jeffrey Simmons did not practice yesterday. Meanwhile, Danico Autry was once again a limited participant. Defensive back Lonnie Johnson returned to Titans practice while he remains on injured reserve. It is Titans-Chargers kickoff 3:25 on Sunday. And the Winnipeg Jets defeated the Nashville Predators 2-1 in overtime. Nashville has lost 5 in a row. Raleigh Foundation Repair and Waterproofing Needs. Visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into hour number 3 on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. With Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. No Ramon Foster with us this morning. He's back with us next week.
Come on, man.
But the best
bad
producer
coffee.
in the world is in the building, and his name is Jonathan Schaefer.
The best producer in the world.
Of the world, Craig. The world.
Of the world. Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, joins us in 20 minutes as we talk Titans and Chargers, resetting the injury report headlines with you right now as well. But I have to give Kayla Anderson a little bit of credit.
What?
This morning as well. Got to give Kayla some credit.
Okay.
Even though more than a little bit of credit.
Even though Mike is saying, thank you for letting me come on Kayla's
your show. Yeah.
and all these things. I've probably watched more soccer highlights in the breaks today.
Yeah.
And Kayla doesn't have Ramon in here to just have other conversations while I do. So I just want to commend Kayla for at least acting like she's kind of interested, even though I know you're probably not.
No. First of all, I've covered soccer in my career,
Okay, good.
one of the 80 million sports that
That's the
I
right
have
answer.
covered. And I always appreciate people's passion for certain things. And you are certainly passionate about your soccer
It's
and
great.
your play-by-play announcers,
That's right.
which was really what you were. How do I say this without being? You weren't creepy about it, but you were just enjoying, the voice and how he was explaining it and kind of sharing the moment.
Peter Drury,
Mm-hmm.
NBC.
It was kind of like that meme of Wolverine with the picture. That's kind of what it was like for
Just
Will.
like staring in a
Oh,
picture
God.
frame, just like,
Oh, that picture. That's right.
longing for
I
Peter
love that.
Drury in his life.
It's great. I do. I mean, I wish I was British sometimes.
I don't know about. I don't.
803.
Be careful what you wish for.
No, I know. They're just like it. I'm excited about the World Cup final.
Yeah.
Biggest sporting
It's gonna
event
be
of
big.
every 4 years, coming up Sunday morning.
And wait, what's the real reason though? You're really excited for it
Well,
because the
it-
timing works out.
It's perfect that the Titans are playing a 3:25 game this
Yeah.
weekend because the World Cup final kicks off at 9, and I have full the full morning to enjoy and process whatever happens.
So
in the
you
World Cup
can
final.
day drink and sober up and then be
See?
able to do the
No,
show.
I
later.
might put a
Or
little
he
bit of
just
Irish
might
cream
not.
in a coffee, but that's about it.
he might not sober up.
I've got Titans talk back. I'm
You
not.
might- you
we're,
might.
we're on the clock on Sundays.
Ron Slay once did Titans talk back.
Oh.
He was not.
Ron Slay
Can I go find that somewhere,
infiltrated
please?
Titans talk back after the Colts game at home
Oh my
to
goodness.
talk about Matt Nathaniel Ryan. It was good radio.
It was
Oh,
Ron
I'm
going,
sure.
And I want you all to know I'm fried. I'm sure Rod Slay's hanging out on 104.5 The Zone TV as well, where you can watch the show on Twitter, Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch every single morning.
Hey, I didn't lie. That's literally what he said.
You don't tell
Yeah,
lies. That's why you're the best producer in the world.
I'll lie a little bit.
No, Ron, you could probably ask Slay about that. Ask Slay about that in person, right? Well, not in person, but over the chat, if you do so choose.
And he had a
On
right,
YouTube
though,
this morning.
to get excited because
of
he'd been
course.
calling the Nathaniel thing about Matt Ryan for a minute.
So Slay and Kevin Dyson have talked about this for months, too, where Dyson was kind of a believer in Matt Ryan going into the season.
Oh, I know.
And so it was full circle of Slay coming in and saying, all right, I'm gonna come in the studio. I'm going to bring my soapbox with me. I'm going to stand on top of it, and I'm going to tell you I was right. And he did. Mm-hmm. And he was right.
And then I think later on when Dr. Kevin Dyson came on 3HL, they finally got him to say Nathaniel Ryan. And I was like, yes!
That's right. So if you want to talk with Ron Slay about that, if we don't have the audio for you this morning, which we don't, you can just go talk to Slay yourself. 104.5 The Zone on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button while you're there. And you can stay up to date with all of our shows, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And, of course, Slay on 3HL every single weekday.
What's
Don't
the show
miss
right
it.
after this one?
The Lucas Panzica Show. And then Brandon Mickey as well. That's right.
By the way, Buck did follow me
Oh, there you go.
after yesterday.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So big of him.
Y'all, public shaming works. It works.
Really does. It really, really does. So the injury report after yesterday for the Titans, non-participants at practice. There were many of them. But the ones we will start with, the ones that were downgraded from limited participants on Wednesday, and that is Nate Davis, goes from limited to non-participant. Derrick Henry, again, rest day for him, going from limited to non-participant. And Amani Hooker, I think, is a concern at this point, going from limited to non-participant.
That's a knee. So he's been dealing with several things this year. He also had the concussion, correct?
Right.
So whenever you go from limited in practice, you're kind of testing that. And then if you're not going to practice the next day, it usually means you don't respond well. So that's what worries me. So we'll see today if he is out there. Clearly, the final injury report will be coming out later today.
Right.
So that'll be interesting to see.
Jeffrey Simmons, the other one that goes from limited to a non-participant from Wednesday to Thursday. You said earlier you're not super concerned about his status at this point?
I'm not, just because it's Jeffrey Simmons. It's Big Jeff. And everything that he has done this year with that ankle injury has probably not been pleasant, but he's been out there. And I think in a game like this, we don't know for sure if Danico's going to be back yet. They're going to need everybody on that line. And I just could not see, unless it was something where he went completely backwards in terms of the injury, I can't see him not being out there.
We all have that one friend that if they say they're going to show up to something, that means they might show up.
Yeah.
If they say they might be there, it means they're probably not going to be there.
Yep.
And then if they say, probably not, then just don't even text them to expect it. Jeffrey is the opposite, but with being questionable. Like if Jeffrey Simmons is questionable, he's playing.
Yep.
If he's doubtful, he's questionable. And if he's not playing, obviously, if he's out, then he's out.
I mean, I was feeling very seen there, Will.
I was going to say, that person's name is Jonathan Schaefer.
Oh, jeez.
I'll give you credit, though. But every time you said during high school football season this year, you said you might make it out for the game, might come stop by. You did stop by.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the beach game. I think that was the one where you were like, yeah, I might make it out there, and then you didn't. But that was acceptable because it was 30-mile-an-hour winds, and it was 40 degrees.
Yeah, that's why I didn't go up because the weather sucked.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I said I might.
Which, again, I reiterate, the low on Christmas Eve
Yes.
for Titans and Texans is 8.
Quit bitching.
8. No. I refuse to do such a thing.
So
Quit bitching.
get your gear ready if you're going to that game. I'm going to cover it, so I'm already thinking about coats, warmers that I'll put in my shoes. And I know we were talking to Robert Woods yesterday, who's going to L.A. back home this weekend, and then he just brought it on himself and says, "But next weekend, oh my goodness, what's it? It's 10 degrees. Get used to it.
It's not great.
It's gonna start getting cold, buddy."
Whatever the rushing prop is for Derrick Henry in that game, take the over. Against the Houston Texans and in 8 degrees or 10 degrees or whatever it's going to be, take the over on whatever it is for Derrick Henry to rush for. I mean, if it's 160, take the over.
Mm-hmm.
in that game. And Rhett Bryan had a good stat for us yesterday as well, that in games where Derrick Henry has played against bottom 5 rushing defenses, he averages about 160 yards per game.
Yeah.
And you got another one of those coming up on
them.
Sunday against the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 28th against the run.
Right.
It needs to be a big 2 weeks of D. Henber coming up this Sunday in Los Angeles and a Saturday in Nissan Stadium.
And the thing is a lot of people are like, well, yeah, you guys keep on saying when they face bad defenses in terms of going against the run, they're good. No, that's not. I mean, Derrick Henry gets going, and for the most part, we see that. He hasn't done that in every single game this year. That doesn't always equal wins, though, because when you shoot yourself in the foot and you make mistakes and you have 4 turnovers, like Derrick can't continue to do Derrick things in the second half.
Right.
And he's got to be able to do that this weekend.
Certainly does. And the Titans are going to have to find a tough decision to make when it comes to who's coming off of IR. Because with Lonnie Johnson designated to return from IR yesterday, you have 4 players that are contributors who are perhaps in the neighborhood of returning to this team, and only 3 of them can come back.
Mm-hmm.
So Zach Cunningham, David Long, Kyle Phillips, and Lonnie Johnson, 4 players that it appears are getting closer to a return. Based on the new math of IR returns, and we've talked a lot about it, of course, this season, that you can only bring 8 guys off of IR this season.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big reason why the Titans used 91 players last year. It's a reason why, as injured as they've been this year, they're not going to quite get to that number.
What are they at, 81, 80?
They've hit 80.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they're not going to get to 91, but that's just because you can only bring so many guys back from IR. And if Johnson and Cunningham both come off of IR this weekend, they would have 1 designation left. And you're between Elijah Molden at that point, David Long, Kyle Phillips. Those are your options.
Yeah, so what we've seen from Elijah and just the issue with the groin this year and then the setback, he posted, I think, on Twitter kind of a little thing like, I'll be back. Like, these are hard. I don't expect him to be back this year, Elijah. So I'm personally going to take him out of the equation. I actually chatted with David Long Jr. yesterday in the locker room. He was just there to be there because a lot of these guys, when they get injured, it's tough being away from the team, being away from the game. And a lot of them are choosing to be around the team as much as they can. So you'll see a lot of those guys now in the locker room. Like I've seen it with Kyle Phillips too. He's been in there recently, although they're still on IR. And I did say, how are you doing? And he said, honestly, I'm doing good. And he had kind of a bit of hope in his voice. He's been around the team a little bit. I don't know if that means they'll have him back this year, but I would take him probably being back before Kyle Phillips.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's interesting, too, the way this team is going to have to make a tough decision because you have a bigger need at wide receiver probably than you do at linebacker.
Right.
When you're now getting Monty Rice kind of into the flow of the defense, and he's playing pretty well, and Zach Cunningham comes back.
But David Long's
as good as he's been this year.
He's been great.
If there's any chance that you can get that guy back for a massive Week 18 game in Jacksonville, you've got to try.
Yeah, and you want to have Kyle Phillips on the field. I mean, absolutely, but he's just really not been out there a lot at all. So just you're not really, I guess, right now, while you'd have another wide receiver that you could depend on, maybe. I just think you take the guy that has been really good for them all season, and if he's available to bring back, on the roster, if he's not, coming back from that injury too early, I would say David Long Jr. is the one they'll bring back.
Coming up next, voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, joins us for his weekly conversation with us on the show. Mike Keith has seen a lot of Titans teams, a lot of difficult Titans schedules. Has he ever seen a murderer's row of quarterbacks in about a month and a half like this one? We'll ask Mike about that, get his thoughts on the Los Angeles Chargers and the biggest X-Factor matchups in this game. That's coming up on the other side as we chat with the voice of the Titans next on 104.5 The Zone.
You don't have to go through yet another year with that knee pain or back pain. People with chronic joint pain are getting real lasting relief from QC Kinetics. Hey, it's Ramon Foster, and QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine. Their unique protocols use healing agents from your own body to target aching joints, repairing and restoring damaged joint tissue so you can move again with no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Got shoulder pain, excruciating hip pain, or if you have any arthritis pain or lingering pain from an injury, don't let them operate on you or give you more steroids, and say no to the pain pills. Call QC Kinetics and see if they're life-changing. All natural treatments can get you living your best life in the new year. I'm telling you, people are raving about these treatments. This is the future of joint pain management, and appointments are available as soon as next week. Make 2023 the year you say goodbye to joint pain. QC Kinetics in Nashville, Clarksville, and Murfreesboro. And the number is 615-249-4024. Again, the number is 615-249-4024.
Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith.
You've got so many syllables in the name of the show. I mean, what you should call it maybe is the sports talk show with the longest name in the world.
In the world, Craig.
That's right. Well, and that show continues into hour number 3, the show with the longest name in the world. Our weekly conversation with Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. For 75 years, Tennesseans have been relying on Farm Bureau Health Plans for their health care coverage. Why? Better rates, better coverage, and better service. With Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. We go to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline and check in with the voice of the Titans, Mike Keith. And Mike, you're on the right side of history because I messed up the show name. I stumbled over at Ramon, Kayla, and Will and said and it was a catastrophe earlier this morning. So we give you credit for being on the right side of history of our long show name this morning.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into this because I know it hurts everybody's feelings. I know, and I know everybody wants their name said 42 times every morning. So I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So I'll stop with the jokes about, if you added more people because you have more seats in that beautiful new studio.
Yeah.
So you could add Ross and Rachel and Chandler and,
I'm down for that, Mike. Let's get him in here.
I know.
I love it. Yeah, Ramon really upset about that. That's actually why he's not here today.
I know he gets his feelings hurt over it quite often.
100%.
What is the name of the show again?
Ramon, Kayla, and Will.
There we go.
Powered by All Four Seasons Garage
Ramon,
Doors.
Kayla, and Will. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
I was going to call it Will K. I'm sorry. I haven't had a lot of coffee. I apologize.
Hey, Mike, do you actually want to hear Will screwing up the show name?
No.
Please.
I've got that ready.
Here we go.
Sure.
Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Mike, I think I've had too much coffee this morning. That's my problem.
Do you know I had a show for 9 years. Do you know what I called it?
What?
Sports Talk.
There you go. Problem solved.
I love it. Simple. To the point. I love it.
Sports Talk with Mike Keith.
There it is.
Yep.
All right. Well, Sports Talk with Ramon, Kayla, and Will. I guess
It
that's adding
It worked
more
for
names.
9 years, and guess what? It's still on. And you know what they call it now?
It's still Sports Talk, isn't it?
Sports Talk.
Yes.
No frills. No nonsense.
That's just me. I digress.
All right. Good to know.
We listen to Mike.
Of course we do.
Thank you.
Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, with us this morning. Mike, you've seen a lot of schedules for this Titans team and a lot of difficult stretches over a season. Do you remember a murderer's row of quarterbacks like this one? And what makes Justin Herbert unique out of all the guys the Titans have seen over these past few months?
I don't remember anything like this because we had the 3 future Hall of Famers in a row, and then Joe Burrow, and then Jalen Hurts, and then Lawrence, and now Herbert. I mean, it's remarkable. And I think for the Titans, the challenge with Herbert is that he is so accurate on the run that when he moves out of the pocket, he's still deadly accurate with what he does. And they've toned some things down with them from the standpoint that they're getting the ball out of his hands quickly and letting some really good receivers and certainly a great running back who can catch do a lot of things just with their hands in the ball. They've got some offensive line problems due to injuries. And so what they're doing is they're just saying, okay, I'm going to throw it to, Eckler. I'm going to throw it to Allen. I'm going to throw it to Palmer. I'm going to throw it to Williams. And, they're second in the league in yards after the catch. And yet here's this guy who could still drop back and throw the deep ball. And he's got mobility skills. I mean, he's 6'6", 236. He's bigger than Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
And really can run. They really haven't utilized his running a lot, but he can run. And he can certainly throw on the run very well. So, I mean, this is just kind of the evolution of what we've seen of these kids coming out of offenses in high school where, we've got spread and we do all these things. Well, now we have these quarterbacks who are, quote unquote, today's spread quarterbacks, but they're built like the Dan Marinos and the Ben Roethlisbergers of the 80s and 90s. And it's crazy. I mean, it's just so crazy to see what these guys are doing because they have this stand in the pocket size. I'm tall enough I can see over the line, and yet they have all of the athleticism of the smaller guys.
And Mike, too, you mentioned the size, the physicality of Justin Herbert when he's a runner. These wide receivers as well, from Tennessee's Josh Palmer to Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. It feels like strength and physicality is certainly a strength of this wide receiving core. Talking to Coach Mack about that yesterday. How big of a challenge is that specifically for not only just a guy like Roger McCreary in the Titans secondary, but for this entire defense?
The entire defense is right. I mean, because Palmer's the small guy, and he's 6'1", 215. Because Keenan Allen's this big, strong guy. People don't remember Keenan Allen's story. Out of high school, he was initially committed to Alabama as a safety and then decided to go to Cal as a wide receiver. And I'd say that's worked out. I'd say that decision was probably a good one. But, Alabama doesn't recruit you as a defensive player unless you're somebody. They weren't doing that as a favor to a member of his family or a high school coach. I mean, this is the kind of athlete he is, the kind of competitor he is. And then Mike Williams is just huge. And he's just one of those go-get-it guys who looks like a power forward. They had a Gerald Everett, too, who's a guy who came out as that in-between hybrid tight end guy. And we played against him in Seattle last year. He had played for the Rams before. Now he's with the Chargers. And then you got Eckler. And Eckler's this just bizarre combination of everything. Austin Eckler is not even 5'9". Some people question if he's even 5'8". He can dunk a basketball.
Wow. He's got hops.
Now stop it. Yeah, I mean, stop and think about that. I mean, that, as Keith Bullock said on Titans Tonight on Wednesday, he said, that guy's got explosion. I mean, if you're that size and you can dunk a basketball carrying 205 pounds, you have explosion as an athlete. So that's what this is really about. You're getting ready to face a group of outstanding athletes, and Herbert too. So that's the overall challenge. You got to get them on the ground. You got to stay with them. You've got to be able to run, and you cannot in any way, shape, or form lose your responsibility, because if you do, they'll burn you. They have 7 plays. Herbert has 7 completions of 40 or more yards this season. So, they've got a really great offense. Now, again, they have some offensive line issues. They haven't run the ball real well. I mean, they're certainly not perfect. And they have issues on defense too. But, I mean, they've got some guys.
Mike, we saw Danico Autry return to practice this week, which is really encouraging. I think Titans fans just excited to see him out there. He's excited to be out there 2 straight days with limited participation. Do you see him in any way being able to be back for Sunday, even if it's a limited role, and just how much of a difference can he make with getting that pressure up front with the other guys?
Kayla, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a great question. I think we'll know more today based on how they work him in practice. And the other issue that it comes down to is when you think about the 48, it's very hard for them to keep a guy up and say, okay, 10 snaps. If they were more healthy in the secondary, if they were more healthy at the wide receiver position or more healthy at linebacker, I would say, yes, you could absolutely do it. When you're in the situation, say Jacksonville was last weekend, where you've had the least amount of starters lost to injury this season. Yeah, I mean, you can keep that 48th guy and say, you know what, if we can get a play or two out of him in certain situations, big third down, we'll run him out there and let him rush the passer. I just don't know if the Titans can do that with what their numbers are going to be. Because, I mean, they're going to have to make a decision at running back without Dontrell Hilliard. Do they activate somebody from the practice squad, or do they elevate somebody? And then who returns punts?
Yeah. Who
returns kickoffs? Can Haskins do that right now? With it feels good about his hip, but is he good enough to return kickoffs?
Sorry, Mike.
That's okay.
Well, Craig Ackerman even mentioned Mason Kinsey possibly being brought up, right? What is your thoughts on maybe him for special teams returning?
I'm a fan.
Okay.
I'm a fan of Mason Kinsey, and getting a chance to watch practice and watch the way this guy works in practice and the way this guy has some success against the first team defense and looks good in special teams. And he's been here 3 years. Yeah. This is a guy who clearly loves this job, because you don't do it in this way unless you love it. And Mason Kinsey, I'm a fan. And so I would be interested to see him get any opportunity at this point, because I think you can trust him. And that's the part of it that you have to have right now. You don't put in 3 years of this kind of work without being somebody who can be trusted, in my opinion.
Mike, for Derrick Henry, Chargers games have been major milestones for him. Of course, in 2018, the last time this team had a 3-game losing streak, the game in London where, Eddie George, of course, everyone knows the story, has the come to Jesus meeting with Derrick, and the Derrick Henry we know and love begins really from that point on. Seems fitting, right, that his 100th NFL game is back against these Chargers again, doesn't it?
It does, because, at that point, he had really become the third team running back. And that's hard to believe. But the Titans, he was just not hitting the holes, and, just seemed like a confused guy at that point. And man, what he's done since then is just remarkable. And I will always be such a fan of his for so many different reasons, including the great things he does off the field. But I don't know that we've ever had a player in the time that I've had the opportunity to be around this team who was a star, who was in a slump and found his way out of it in such a dramatic way through hard work and sticking with it.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of stars over the years go in the tank and they can never get out of it. And he not only got out of it, he's on the verge of going over 8,000 yards rushing in his career this week. And, we're talking about who knows what he has left going forward. This looks like it could be a 1,500-yard season. If he's big down the stretch, he could win a rushing title potentially. These have been milestone games for him. And he's playing against a defense that has trouble against the run because they've had tons of injuries up front. And so I think there are two things that really stand out about that. They got to pound him. He's got to get more than 17 carries. And that's not about a complaint about how many times they hand him the ball. That's about being able to keep the game in check, not falling 2 touchdowns behind, things of that sort. That's a big deal. The other thing, too, is there have to be some opportunities off play action for the Titans in this game, because you just think that the Chargers are going to sell out to stop him, that they're going to have to. And so at some point, there's got to be a shot or two there that the Titans can take and maybe can help this offense score more points. Biggest problem with the offense right now is they're not scoring enough. And that sounds very simple, but you're going against a team this week that can score, that can throw, that's going to throw. You're going to need some points in this game, because you're probably not going to hold them to 10. If you do, great. And I'm not knocking the defense. I'm just saying their passing game is so dramatic and so outstanding that, you've got to be able to go get some touchdowns.
And you'd hope that some of those points, Mike, come for the Titans in the second half. We talked a lot to Todd Downing yesterday, offensive coordinator for the Titans, about what it takes to kind of get out of that second half slump. First downs are a big part of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And absolutely right. I don't think this is any big secret right here. Because what the Titans do is they want to run Derrick Henry, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've seen them win a ton of games doing that. But when you're behind and you're having 3 and outs and you're not successful and you're not able to stay with it, it doesn't work. It does not work. And so they've got to be able to stay on the field. They've got to be able to consistently move the football and keep pounding him in that way. And yeah, the first downs are a big factor, because, listen, if you look how this team is built and how it has been built for a long time. It's built to play complementary football. And people get sick of hearing that. But and I get it. But if you're staying on the field, if you're driving the ball, you're running Derrick Henry, you're not only moving the ball, you're keeping the defense off the field. You're changing field position. You're doing what you need to do. And it would help if this defense only had to play 50 plays this week instead of 70. So all of these things kind of fit together. The model for getting well is pound somebody. That's the model for this team getting well and getting a win, is if they can have success in that area, take the deep shots with the play action or even the medium shots with the play action, and then force the defense, or don't force the defense into situations where they have to be out there for 75 plays.
Mike, on the way out, Chig Okonkwo needs just 10 receiving yards to break the Titans franchise record for rookie tight ends set by Ben Troop back in 2004. How impressed have you been just with the improvement Chig has made since the beginning of the season? Because he was already coming in a pretty good spot after camp, and it seems like this team is scheming things specifically for him now to try to get him more involved.
I think they are, Will, and I think a big reason that it's going so well is that Chig has done such a good job improving his blocking and being able to stay on the field. And so what's happening is he's getting more snaps and thus more opportunities. Understanding what was going to be required in the offense, and some of that changed when they lost Taylor Lewan too. Because suddenly you've got a guy at left tackle who was not even with the team at the start of training camp, and you're having to scheme to help him in certain ways. You also have a rookie on the other side. And so all of a sudden it's probably going to be more Jeff Swaim than it is Chig Okonkwo. Well, Okonkwo has gotten competitive enough in other areas that he can stay out there, and thus every time he comes on the field, you're not giving it away. You're not saying, oh, here comes 85. They're going to throw the ball to 85. And, that's not good. That doesn't really help anybody. So I'm really impressed with what a pro he's become. He certainly did some things wrong in the game the other day. And that's some things that Mike Vrabel pointed out. And that almost gives you reason for hope, because you see the areas where he can improve and can continue to get better. I think he's going to be a staple of this team for a long time, and I'm very excited about how he's worked at it and how he's gotten better as a rookie. He's a really good young player, but he also fits the role of what Mike Vrabel wants in a football player.
Mike, just really quick going out, I love that you said that about Chig, and you've noticed that too. Like, he's become such a pro. Doesn't he just light up a room too when you're like, hey, Chig, and he flashes that smile? Like, he has that, right? That factor.
He's got the it factor.
Yep.
That's exactly right. Yep. And, there's a star factor in certain guys, and that's a big deal. The star factor is something that you've got to have, because those are the guys that you put up on the side of the stadium and that you build around, and you got to have it. I mean, let's face it, 100%. You got to have it as a franchise, both on and off the field.
Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, our guest on the show every Friday, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Mike, we appreciate the time as always, and have a good call on Sunday.
Okay, you guys have a nice weekend.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, there is Mike Keith with us on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline this morning. When we come back, our tailgate tip of the week and a holiday tailgate tip.
Ooh.
Courtesy of our friends at Maryland Farms Wine and Spirits. That's next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mike Roberts.
Window Nation is doing the impossible. Despite the fact that costs are up and inflation is up and rates are rising, yes, we've all heard about this, but I'm here to tell you, Window Nation is giving you 0% interest for 5 full years on new windows. That means no interest payments for 60 months. Yes, I know some of y'all education don't go up to that high, but that's 60 months, okay? That's 5 years, okay? In addition to 2 windows free for every 2 you buy. This winter can be even colder than ever. Temps are already dropping, and we are facing the highest energy costs in over 25 years, an all-time high, up as much as 28% from last year. Stay warmer and more comfortable, and add to your home's value and lower your energy bills with Window Nation incredible savings. 0 interest payments for 5 full years, plus 2 free windows for every 2 that you buy. Save up to 30% on your heating bill and increase the value of your home, too. Listen to me. Here it is for you. You buy 2 windows, you get 2 windows free on any style window from Window Nation. And there is no limit. If you got 60 windows in your house, guess what? You can get 60 windows. Okay? Plus, make no payments and make no down payments and no payments and no interest until 2025. Save thousands on your new windows and your energy bills, all while upgrading the look and feel of your home. If you call this number now, 866-90-NATION, or visit windownation.com. Again, that's 866-90-NATION, or visit windownation.com.
Perfect song for a Friday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. No Ramon Foster this morning. He's back with us next week. So he does not get to party with us today. Will Bowling, Kayla Anderson with you. Jonathan Schaefer making the show happen. It is time, goodness, English is hard, for our tailgate tip of the week this morning.
Did you already have that drink?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
I have not yet tried the smoke, spice, and everything nice cocktail.
Maybe you should start drinking. The show would be better.
Let's have a party.
It's hurtful, but okay. It'd be a different kind of entertaining.
I'm sure it would be.
For all parties. So the smoke, spice, and everything nice cocktail, courtesy of our friends at Maryland Farms Wine and Spirits, Creekside Crossing in Brentwood, next to Publix. You can't miss it, right off of Old Hickory Boulevard. They've got for us an ounce of bourbon, a half an ounce of mezcal, which is one of my favorites, an ounce of rye, a half an ounce of strawberry syrup, and 2 dashes of bitters.
Sipping on
Wow.
some syrup.
Sipping on some sister.
I like it.
It's like a smoky
Yes.
type of drink.
It's like a smoky Christmas cocktail. Some spice in it. I love anything with mezcal in it because I like the smoky feel.
You either do or you don't, is what I've learned.
Exactly. Do you like it?
No.
Okay.
So I'm on the not list
That's
of
fine.
mezcal. But I actually would be willing to try this just to try it because it's a Christmas drink.
I don't
I
know if
love
I've ever
like
had it.
themes.
Can we bring it into studio? I don't know if I've ever had it.
Yeah, sure.
Really?
I don't think I have.
It's like
Okay.
smoky tequila.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't had it. So I'm not.
we are
guy.
talking to Tequila Anderson
Tequila
right
girl
now.
over here.
Hey.
No, it's one of my favorites. I also love a smoked old fashioned, just in any way, like anything with a blowtorch.
Yep.
Plus, it's just fun, like the fire.
It's cool.
when you
Like
blowtorch a drink.
the presentation. I'm all about that.
Jonathan Schaefer's laughing. What's so bad about that?
You saying anything with a blowtorch?
Yeah, it's great.
And I'm like, hey, it's Will on Twitter.
Big fire guy.
Right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Anytime Vanderbilt fans tweet at me, Will with the blowtorch. Check again.
I'm disrespectful.
That's right. I choose my battles more carefully than I used to.
So what's the color? I haven't seen the photo of this yet. I'm all about presentation. So what does this look like?
It's like
is what I'm really-
look, I'm
like the
pulling up
color of
graphic
it,
right
just so we
now.
can describe it to the listeners.
It is. It's orange.
Oh, that's not what I was expecting with
Yeah.
the strawberry.
It's like orangey and like red,
Okay.
and then you can like garnish it with a little bit of orange. This sounds really good.
Yeah, I actually would try it,
'Cause
even
there's
though
just
I'm not a huge
Right.
mezcal fan.
So go to Maryland Farms Wine and Spirits, mention the show, and they will have everything that you need for this. They got the bourbon, the mezcal, the rye. They get you the strawberry syrup, the bitters as well. It's always the difficult part about making a Christmas cocktail, getting ready for hosting people in the holiday season, right? You get all these online recipes. You want to get all these things. You have no idea where to go to get them. Go to one place and mention the cocktail, and Maryland Farms Wine and Spirits will take care of you. That's all you need to do. I hope you didn't blink this morning because it is hour 4 just like that.
Wow.
Happened quick.
It's that coffee.
With an empty studio this morning.
It's that great coffee you made.
It's the great Folgers that was in the studio that Ramon Foster could not tamper with this morning. And it's the better view of the fire that we have. Because we roast people on their off days on this show. One more hour coming up. NFL headlines on the other side. More commiserations to Ramon, not to Ramon Foster's Seahawks, to Kayla Anderson's Seattle Seahawks.
Ouch.
And Thursday Night Football recap on the other side. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will for one more hour. 4's up on 104.5 The Zone.
9 o'clock, good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk for the San Francisco 49ers. They're currently sitting pretty with Brock Purdy. I want him to have a good goal call as well. The third-string quarterback threw for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns to help lead the Niners to a 21-13 win at the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. Gallatin native Jordan Mason, 64 rushing yards, including a 55-yarder for the Niners, who captured the NFC West title for the first time since 2019. C.J. Board, Traylon Burks, Christian Fulton, Dontrell Hilliard did not practice for a second straight day. Nate Davis, Derrick Henry, Amani Hooker, and Jeffrey Simmons, they did not practice yesterday. Danico Autry was a limited participant for the second day in a row. And defensive back Lonnie Johnson returned to Titans practice, though he remains on injured reserve. Biletnikoff Award winner Jalen Hyatt became just the 13th player in Tennessee history to achieve unanimous All-America status. The junior receiver, who has declared for the NFL draft, earned first-team votes and honors from all 5 of the NCAA's recognized All-America teams. And Tennessee offensive tackle Darnell Wright declared for the draft, though he will play in the Orange Bowl for the Vols. Jets defeated the Predators 2-1 in overtime last night. Nashville's lost 5 in a row. For all foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
One more hour of the show, Friday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. No Ramon Foster this morning. That's why the coffee tastes better. Kayla Anderson and Jonathan Schaefer. Many say he's the best producer in the world.
The best producer in the world!
Of the world. I'm Will Bowling. You can join us at 615-737-1045. Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com hits the NFL headlines with us coming up in just about 15 minutes on a show that has flown by, Kayla.
Yeah, I cannot believe it's Friday already. Next week, we're counting down to Christmas.
We
the
are?
holiday season is definitely here.
Wow!
I still don't believe that.
And there's a game on Saturday. Like, I don't think I've ever worked football in terms of football, a Christmas Eve game.
Yeah. That's
going to be interesting.
Jonathan Schaefer, correct me if I'm wrong, the red jerseys were originally created for a Christmas Eve game. They weren't worn on the field, but they were created for a Christmas Eve game. I want to say against the Cowboys.
That may be right.
Yeah. So all the red jerseys that I detest that I see walking around Nissan Stadium.
I see a few.
Wait, why do you detest them?
I just don't think they look good.
They're great.
No.
They're one of my favorite uniform combinations.
Now, that being said, while they are my least favorite Titans jersey, I respect a fan a lot that I see wearing the red jersey because it means they've been around since that time.
So you're saying they're an OG, basically?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Like, if you have a red Titans jersey, like, you've seen some stuff.
Represent.
You've been around.
Yes, you have seen some stuff. Yes, and that's not for
you have
necessarily
seen
for the
things.
good.
No, you have not.
Yeah, you have seen Mettenberger, or whatever his name is, Mustang.
Zach Mettenberger.
Mettenberger.
Yeah.
You saw J.J. Watt take the selfie over his body in Houston.
You saw James Harrison almost kill Vince Young.
Oh, God.
That
you saw
sounds
Troy
awful,
Polamalu
guys.
jump over the pile and stop a QB sneak, timing the snap count. I don't know why I'm giving you the satisfaction of these Pittsburgh moments. But
Well, I just mentioned it just because that was a game that the Steelers won with their fourth-string quarterback.
I remember.
Well, luckily things have
Ben
gone
was
in a
out, Leftwich
better
was
direction.
out, Dixon was out.
My
No, it was Dennis
goodness.
Dixon playing.
Yeah.
It was, Charlie Batch, Leftwich,
Oof.
Ben were all out, and Dennis Dixon was playing.
Oregon
And
legend.
The offense was so
Yeah.
bad, Tomlin was just trying to get them back onto defense as quickly as possible.
That is bad.
Spencer on Twitter tweets at us, says, "Sit down, youngster. The red jerseys are phenomenal." They're just really not.
They're great.
They're really not.
I got to go take a deeper look at these here in a minute.
They're fantastic.
Somebody recently did like a mock-up, like people love to do on Twitter, of uniforms that'll never exist, and they made one of red pants and a red helmet. That would white uniforms for the Titans.
I don't know about that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would rather the Titans use more light blue than red. But I like the red as the accent.
red. I love the red accent.
I do too.
I think it looks so good.
I didn't used to.
Really?
Well, that's not true. I liked it originally when Keith Bullock would do it.
Because he started it all.
Yeah, Keith is like the coolest guy in the NFL. And the red gloves for him were sick. And then Chris Johnson, the same thing. Like, the red cleats, the red gloves. And I like what Keith Bullock said about that. Of like, back when I was playing, that was when you were a playmaker, you got to wear the red. Now everybody and everybody wants to wear red, including guys that are not household names. But
Drink my beers.
That's right.
But it still looks good. Speaking of Keith Bullock, so I did my 2-minute drill this week with Monty Rice. And Monty, if you guys don't know this, grew up a Titans fan. He's from Huntsville. And he loves like the old school Titans, right? And so Keith Bullock is one of his favorite players. And so I talked to him about Keith this week, and he had some great things to say about him. I just love that like these younger players have an appreciation for all those guys.
Right. I've told you before that my roommate has said when he played Brentwood Blaze as a kid, he had the option to switch to running back.
Yeah.
And he literally told the coach, no, I want to wear red gloves and have like the full cage face mask because I want to be Keith Bullock.
Keith Bullock. Yep.
Yeah. Literally. There's a lot of people that are like that. I don't know who I was embodying on the football field other than someone that had 2 left feet. Like I embodied a
How about
gazelle.
Randy Bullock?
Well, no.
It's his birthday
like
today.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Randy.
Did you just say he had 2 left feet?
I said I had 2 left feet.
He had 2 left
No,
feet.
but then she said Randy right after.
I know. Well, I was thinking anything with soccer,
Not really an athlete.
Well, the thing is, though, like I never played soccer.
That's what's crazy. I always forget that you didn't even play youth soccer?
No, never did.
That's bizarre to me.
Like not one time.
Because I even played youth soccer. And I never really loved the sport.
No,
I mean, I enjoy it.
Well,
here and
because
there.
my dad was like, "Oh, would you rather play soccer or go to UT football games?" And
That's what that story
and my dad
was.
and I was like, "Well, we'll go to UT games." My dad was like, "Yeah, that's the right answer." So that was the end of me playing
there
soccer.
was no other answer.
Okay, I
Let's
didn't play
just say
football either. I just ran.
I love that he asked you the question,
There-
even though he was going to tell
I
you what the
know.
answer was going to
that.
be.
Yeah, sorry.
Like he
well-
gave you the illusion of choice.
Uh-huh.
Well, you and your mother will have a great time playing soccer. Is probably what he would have said.
Wow.
Look, I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all.
I think
You
it
know
was
what
a
your
good
mom
choice.
would have said? I'm going to the game.
Well, that's right.
I don't care.
No, my mom would have been there. My mom would have
No,
taken
she
me
would
to
have went to
soccer
the game.
practice.
She would have went to the game.
Well, my mom's not my mom is a UT fan by family, but like my mom
She's
went to
Georgia.
Georgia. Yeah,
Oh, I know. Because the day I found
that's
that
what I'm
out, I
saying.
went, ooh, house divided.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Yeah, it's we would always see my mom's like Georgia fandom come out the most on the day of the Georgia Tech game. Like my mom does a good job of like hiding it, and like I mean, all of us went to UT in our family, like except for her. But when they played Georgia Tech, it would be like oh, okay, that's right, you are a Georgia fan. Yeah,
Because when I was
SEC
actually-
powerhouse, Georgia
When I was
Tech.
actually at her office and saw the diploma that said University of Georgia, I had that Chris Pratt meme like,
Wow. Yeah, I know. The injury report for the Titans again yesterday at St. Thomas Sports Park. Non-participants including Dontrell Hilliard, Christian Fulton, Traylon Burks, C.J. Board, Amani Hooker, Derrick Henry. That one not injury related, so I would say no concern there. And Nate Davis. Haven't really talked about that one.
Yeah.
That one's a little bit concerning for him. The knee problem that continues as he's downgraded from limited on Wednesday.
Well, there's another one, like we had mentioned earlier, with Amani Hooker, who is also dealing with the knee, limited on Wednesday and then downgraded. That's the same thing with Nate. And that's just one. The offensive line is already like so banged up. We're seeing everything that Titans fans are talking about. They're fed up. You need this offensive line to have him go this weekend. So you're hoping that, Friday he's back out there today. There's a lot going to be telling in terms of who's out in practice and who's not.
Big day for the injury report today as well. And limited participants, Ben Jones with a neck problem, Terrence Mitchell, hamstring. Look, anytime you see soft tissue, that's
concerning.
That's a concern. But Lonnie Johnson, Zach Cunningham, both guys who are eligible to potentially return. That would give the Titans one more IR return designation for the rest of the season if both of those guys come off of injured reserve, which I think at this point we expect. But Lonnie Johnson, if Christian Fulton can't go again, which is looking likely at this point, and Terrence Mitchell with the hamstring, you might need him to pretty much immediately be back on the field this Sunday.
Yeah, and that's what this team has done, right? When players go down, Mike Vrabel has done a great job of getting these guys ready to just plug in and go. And for the most part, you've seen that work out. The defense has been so banged up, though. I think you're starting to really see it now towards the end of the season. It's having an effect. But, yeah, if Lonnie's ready to go, that could be big. I don't foresee Christian Fulton playing. I could be wrong, but yeah. And who else did you mention again?
Trey Avery, the other guy in there,
yeah.
who's
Trey Avery.
He was upgraded yesterday. That
yeah,
was
so
part
he
of the
should be good.
news.
He should be good to go.
Yeah.
But having Lonnie just for the depth perspective would be great.
So Todd Downing, Titans offensive coordinator, spoke to the media yesterday, and this is a quote that we'll play you that the people on Twitter, the people in the crowd are not going to like when asked about the adjustments this team is making in the second half or lack thereof, and the different ways this team has hurt themselves. Todd went into good detail here, but I've got an issue with one part of this. Here's what Todd Downing had to say yesterday.
Certainly not, something that we feel we're clicking on all cylinders coming out of halftime, but we've had basically inventing new ways of putting ourselves behind the sticks. Last week, for example, taking you through that drive, we come out of halftime, repeating a run that we liked from the first half, made an adjustment to a combination block, didn't execute that well on the front side, but on the back side, we get an illegal chop block. Now we're 1st and 22. I can hand the call sheet to anybody in the stands at that point. You're behind the sticks, and you're just looking, to try to get half back, and get yourself in third and manageable. We wound up in 3rd and 27. You're not going to convert very many of those. And so we've got to avoid those negative plays. I think that we've shown as an offense that when we gain positive yards, and not even necessarily big chunks in the second half, I think back to last year, that was a strength of ours coming out of halftime and being able to get some things going. And so we just need to be more consistent, staying on schedule so that we're not in these second and extra long, third and extra long.
So there's Todd Downing yesterday. At 1st and 22, I could hand the play sheet to anybody in the stands.
Not great, Bob.
Look, the reason why you have so many issues getting half back and getting yourself from 1st and 22 to a 2nd and 11 or 2nd and 10 is because they called a run play on 1st and 22 that went backwards for 2 yards. So then you're in 2nd and 24, and then it's a screen pass on 3rd down and 27. I mean, this is the issue I have because Jacksonville made it look so easy.
Yeah, they did.
When they would get behind the chains early in drives, they got half back every single time on 1st and 15 or 1st and 20 after some holding penalties, and were more aggressive throwing the football downfield. I know that Todd Downing, it's difficult to throw the ball downfield when your left tackle is really struggling right now, and even chipping to help him out has not worked. But that's going to drive Titans fans crazy hearing that.
And I get it too. Just for the record, guys, yesterday, maybe you were listening to the press conference, we were really trying to get something out of Todd that was different in terms of explanation, because it's just been the same things, like we're making mistakes, but it's like, how do you fix that? And what do you got to do to change it? Is it fixable? And, like he had even mentioned to one of my questions, some of it is fixable, but some of it's not. And so you feel like he's alluding to the personnel situation when you're talking about some of it's not. But I'm sorry, you cannot have excuses in the NFL. You got to find ways. And I think the biggest thing is coming out of the half, specifically when you start that third quarter, you're just seeing this team sputter. That narrative has to change.
Right. And as many plays as Carson Wentz and the Colts had against the Titans last year, where they literally just ran the pass interference play.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? Throwing the ball downfield 20, 25 yards just on a shot play. They tried it to Racey McMath.
Yep.
And he was open. He kind of stutter-stepped just for a beat there and was not on the same page with Ryan, and they never went back to it. in 3rd down and 10, 3rd down and 12. They tried it again in the red zone later, and Racy wasn't able to haul in any of his 4 targets. Not totally on him either. But they never went back to that in that situation, and that to me is where Traylon Burks is, I think, at the very least, getting the back shoulder opportunities.
That is exactly what I was going to say, because you were just thinking in that moment, if Traylon Burks were to be that guy that they were doing, then it would be maybe a different story.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's where the personnel issues come in, and maybe those are the things at that moment that aren't fixable because you just don't have that guy.
Coming up next, we bring Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com into the conversation. Surprises from him on the Titans' 3-game losing streak and his perspective on whether or not he's seen enough this year to tell us whether the Titans need a rebuild or a retool under a new general manager into next season. We'll hit the NFL headlines around the league as well. Tyler Dunne, GoLongTD.com, one of our favorites, joins us after this on 104.5 The Zone. Friday edition of the show on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors with Kayla Anderson. I am Will Bowling. Jonathan Schaefer making the show happen. No Ramon Foster this morning, a day off for him, so we bring a third voice into the show now with our friend Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com joining us on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Tyler, Ramon taking the day off and just starting the weekend early, I guess, this morning.
What an absolute loafing slacker of a co-host you guys have in Ramon Foster. It's a shame. You know, I think he should really be on the chopping block, and you got to reevaluate Ramon.
Right?
I got to get to the bottom of this illness. What's going on with him, for real?
I know. It's just a late well, I guess there you go, from Jonathan Schaefer, our producer. But we made the joke earlier this morning, Tyler, that usually the coffee in our building is horrible.
Yep.
And I needed an extra cup this morning, and it's actually not that bad. So I think Ramon might be the problem in his barista skills.
Yeah, you know, I kid and I want to rip Ramon, but at the same time, I had a stomach virus not too long ago, and man, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. So I hope it's not that. I really hope he's not losing 15 pounds as we speak.
Right. Yeah, not fun for sure. Well, lots in the NFL to discuss, Tyler, and just tons of storylines here with this Titans team right now, both in the short and long term. We'll start with just this 3-game losing streak for the Titans as they head to L.A. this weekend. Any big surprises out of what we've seen from the Titans at this point over these past 3 weeks for you?
Yeah, a ton. Man, I hope I wasn't dead wrong on these Titans. Every time I come on, I'm just talking up the culture there and everything Mike Vrabel has built. And it really did strike me as the last team you'd ever want to face in a violent sport. I mean, they just take on the personality of their coach. It never really matters who's hurt, who's healthy. They just find a way to beat you up. And I mean, the fact that they took Patrick Mahomes to overtime with Malik Willis completing 5 passes, it just kind of took that to another level for me. But, man, I think you have to be concerned after that loss to Jacksonville. It's one thing to lose, a hard-fought game against the Bengals, that a team that was getting healthy and has Joe Burrow, all that. And then even the Eagles, I mean, you want to see more fight, but that is the best team in the league. But to get lit up by Trevor Lawrence, that's kind of your worst nightmare if you're the Titans, because, you can talk yourself into how they're built. They've got a running game and a defense, and they've kind of built around the quarterback and can win around the quarterback when, well, here's a first overall pick that was drafted as a transcendent talent that is not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So I think you have to be a little bit worried, not only in the short term, right, as a 7-6 team and in an AFC loaded with quarterbacks, but the long term. You got to deal with this guy for a long time.
Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com talking NFL with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And Tyler, I think that's the interesting part of the conversation in Nashville this week is Derrick Henry had 119 rushing yards in the first half and then had 2 in the second half, right? I mean, it's so easy to point to Titans losses when Derrick Henry doesn't get going and say, oh, well, you got to get the big guy going. Well, the big guy got going in this game and you still weren't able to win it. And it felt like a return in a lot of ways to the 2021 Titans where they were just turning the ball over too much and couldn't get out of their own way.
Yeah, it did, and I don't know. I have a hard time just completely abandoning the plan. Obviously, there's some big picture things that you guys have talked about. I'd imagine many hours over with the GM no longer being there. But man, ahead of the season, I didn't really have a problem with the A.J. Brown trade. It just if you're trying to crunch those numbers and you don't want to be all in on Ryan Tannehill, then you don't just pay $100 million for a receiver and you don't double down on other contracts. You try to kind of thread that needle and compete now. And, oh, by the way, you did earn a number 1 seed when most of your roster was hurt and you didn't even have Henry half the season and Brown was hurt. So it made so much sense. But now you wonder, I mean, they sure could use an A.J. Brown. And you look around the NFL and there's these young quarterbacks. I get it. Tua took a step. Josh Allen took a step before him. Jalen Hurts took a step. Well, what's the common denominator? Their front offices went out and ponied up for a top-flight receiver. So then the next question is, okay, if you're the Titans, do you keep trying to convince yourself that you can win now with this quarterback, with this current structure of a roster? And I still think they can. I'm kind of an old soul in that regard. I like these teams that drag you into the back alley, all that. But there's a lot of quarterbacks you got to deal with, and you don't really have that stud receiver out there either. Maybe Traylon Burks is that one day, but there's nobody that scares you out wide on this team right now.
Yeah, and this Titans team has faced a lot of those quarterbacks this season. Will was even alluding to it as a murderer's row of sort because of just how many good quarterbacks they've faced. They're going to face another one this weekend in LA with taking on Justin Herbert. I think sometimes this guy doesn't get talked about as much because the Chargers have kind of underwhelmed because of all the injuries. But what's just your thought on him and specifically his future as being an elite quarterback?
Man, if you were to create a quarterback in a lab, I don't know if you could do any better than Justin Herbert. Because he's 6'6" and he's athletic and he can make plays on the run, but that's all a bonus. Like, that's not the substance of his game. Like, that's the icing. He's not looking to run and looking to make plays outside of the pocket. He first and foremost just wants to decimate you with his brain from the pocket. And Brandon Staley, I mean, he kind of got off track there for a few weeks and got a little crazy with the play calling and with the decisions. Man, he was back to the Brandon Staley we all loved when he started off as the Chargers head coach. So, I think that we tend to become so enamored with the icing, like Josh Allen throwing it through a brick wall or leaping over your linebacker at 6'5", 247, or Patrick Mahomes. Here's a perfect example. That touchdown to Jerick McKinnon last week where he just kind of flipped it, right? And it was fun. Well, guess what? Like, after the snap, if you look at that play, the post corner or the opposite side, he has a dude wide open. It's like he didn't even see the field. Anybody else gets sacked in that situation, and he's Mahomes, so he still made a play. But how long can that really work? How long can that really last? I had a great chat with Kurt Warner about all this this week for a story on Tua Tagovailoa, because obviously he's at a really critical point of his career this week. But I tend to think that's what you want out of a quarterback. And Justin Herbert, he is going 1 to 2 to 3 and using his mind as well as anybody in the league.
Well, speaking of Tua, I'm glad you brought that up because this was one of the games that I'm looking forward to watching this weekend as Miami goes to Buffalo. And you could argue as hot as Miami was, they're kind of cooling down a bit. And I think it's especially hard for a team in warm weather to go to these cold weather stadiums this late. So this is a big game, like you said, for Tua. Like, how do you feel like they'll adjust up to there?
It's going to be tough. I think that, I mean, we wrote 12,000 words on Tua, just being Tua time before they lost 2 straight. So I'm obviously all in still. I think that, he got his confidence back, even beyond the X's and O's and his play style as a quarterback. I mean, Brian Flores was pretty terrible in that department, just not that great of a leader, was always looking to replace Tua, didn't really do wonders for his confidence when privately and publicly you're making it clear you want Deshaun Watson, and they had it out. Actually, it was that loss to the Titans at the halftime of that game that eliminated them. I mean, they went at it in the locker room. We got into that in the story, but I feel like he has made strides where he has his confidence back. He is that guy at Alabama all over again that can get hot, as well as any quarterback in the league. When he's feeling it and he's hot and he's seeing it, it's out. But Warner made a great point. I mean, these defenses, you saw it with the 49ers and then you saw it with the Chargers. They're getting them off rhythm. They're just nudging those receivers just enough, just to take him off his timing a little bit. And you take that first target away and you force him to go 2 to 3 to 4. He hasn't been able to do that of late. And that Chargers secondary was pretty banged up. I mean, they aren't exactly world beaters. So we're going to find out if he can do it against a Buffalo defense that is just beating the snot out of teams. I mean, Mike White, my God, he got beat up and then some. Here last week, so it's not going to be easy. And by the way, there's going to be a foot of snow Saturday night.
I love it. Tyler Dunne with us. GoLongTD.com here, hitting the NFL headlines. Another win for Brock Purdy in San Francisco last night. Tyler, out of Purdy, Trey Lance, and Jimmy Garoppolo, who stays and who goes, in your opinion, next year for San Francisco?
One of the greatest absolute bummers of this 2022 season has to be no Trey Lance. I mean, Oh my God! I mean, the scheme, the offense, his skill set. I mean, he's raw as hell. Obviously, like he's not going to be reading the field like we're talking about, but he could run the ball 15 times for 120 yards. He could hit the big plays to all these playmakers. There's no situation you'd want as a young quarterback that's better than that what they have in San Francisco. So, yeah, it stinks that he's going to go 3 seasons basically without playing much football at all. I remember he played 1 year at North Dakota State, not exactly Bama. So we don't even know what he is. Like nobody knows what Trey Lance is. We haven't seen it. So to answer that question, I think they'd love for it to be Lance, but physically where will he be? Health-wise, where will he be? Mentally, I mean, he hasn't even played. He hasn't gotten those reps. Don't count out the Purdster. I mean, why not? It's he looks not great, but he's good enough. You can only need to be good enough in this offense with that play calling and those weapons. I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl with this guy, but they're going to be in the mix. I mean, they absolutely could get to a conference championship game and maybe even beat Philly if they had to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You mentioned Brandon Staley and the play calling and kind of evolving from Nathaniel Hacketing last year. And really, before it was Nathaniel Hackett making the analytics decisions that drew the ire of all of us who talk into microphones for a living. It was Brandon Staley doing it last year. How much do you feel like he's evolved and kind of learned from his first season in L.A. To kind of become a different version of himself this season?
Right. It's such a combination. You can't just treat it like it's a video game and go for it on fourth down at your own 18, 19-yard line with the season on the line. Like I'm all for going for it on fourth down. How I wish they'd just get rid of kickers and punters in general.
Yeah.
So that's great. just go for it. But there's just too much on the line. And these guys, I mean, the blood and the sweat and the tears that everybody's pouring into this sport, you can't get that reckless. It cost them the season last year. So I think having a little restraint and picking your spots, and by no means am I Mr. Analytics here. I mean, I like these coaches who operate off of feel and momentum and all of these things that aren't measured in a statistic, in an equation, because it's a human game. I mean, these aren't robots, and it's not baseball. You can't quantify it in numbers. So getting a feel for all that, it's probably not a surprise. Once you have a whole season and now you're getting close to finishing up the second season, you just gain more of a feel as a head coach. And you can't replicate it as a position coach, as a coordinator, anything. So I don't think we should be surprised. I mean, these coaches, they should be getting better with that all as they go. I mean, look at Dan Campbell in Detroit, where earlier this season they kick a 54-yard field goal to go up 26-21, whatever it would have been, against Minnesota, instead of just going for it. And they should have gone for it. And that ate at him. He said to live with that for the rest of his life. And they go out there against Minnesota second time around last week, and they're doing fake punts and tackle-eligible third downs to close the game out. He's really picking his spots now.
So this weekend, I think this will be a good one to watch too right now, just with how Jacksonville is trending in a positive direction with Trevor Lawrence and just how he's kind of coming into his own, because he pretty much lost a year last year with Urban Meyer running things down there. But Jacksonville and Dallas, and I think a lot of Titans fans are starting to get a little worried because when Andrew Luck was in Indianapolis, the Titans could not beat that guy. And Trevor Lawrence seems to be a guy that could eventually be that type of quarterback for Jacksonville.
He does. I sat down with Press Taylor, his coordinator, earlier this season, and obviously his brother's coaching Joe Burrow, and Press Taylor was the brains behind the Philly special, and he's been with Doug Peterson before. I mean, he knows quarterback play. He's a straight shooter, and this is early in the year before we saw any of this, and the Urban Meyer disaster was all we really saw in Trevor Lawrence, and he was pretty adamant that this guy has some special skills, special talents that you can mold, that you can work with. And I think that from a coaching perspective, they've done such a good job of melding what Trevor Lawrence wants to do and what he does really well with his athleticism and feathering and layering throws, into that second and third level, over the linebacker, but before the safety, all that kind of stuff. It took a while. I mean, it might have been too little, too late. Who knows? We're talking about the Titans and how things are going south. Anything's possible. But I think in the long term that they got a winner, and they've got the right pieces and the right staff around him to last. So, I mean, they've got a lot of number 2 and number 3 receivers, and he's doing this. I would think that they're going to be aggressive, and I don't know who it is, but try to do what we were talking about earlier, like get that A.J. Brown for Jalen Hurts, that Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen, that Tyreek Hill for Tua. You know you've got the quarterback, literally whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Throw as many first-round picks as you want around, throw as much money as you want, because if Trevor Lawrence gets that kind of player, yeah, I'd be really worried if I was the Titans.
No doubt about it. And Tyler, on the way out, I'm a big baseball guy, and it feels like the Titans are in that like last couple of weeks that middle of the road teams have in baseball before the trade deadline, where they decide if they want to just totally go for it or just totally rebuild. It feels like the Titans, the way they end this season, will decide whether or not this is a retool or a rebuild this offseason with the new general manager. Have you seen enough to lean one way or the other on what they do this offseason, or is this just kind of a sprint to the finish to see whether or not this team tears it down or builds on what they have?
Yeah, I'll hesitate and hedge for now, but man, I think you're absolutely right. These last few games will decide the direction of the franchise in general. I mean, you're either going to seek a few more veterans to get you over the top and talk yourself into a lot of the veterans you have your team running it back. You know, all these contenders love to say that every spring, we're running it back. Or you're tearing it down. You're starting over. You're looking for a quarterback. You're wondering what you have in Malik Willis. All of these big picture questions. And I tend to think it's kind of teetering toward the latter the way these last few weeks went. It's a weird game. Like, we've seen teams get absolutely waxed and blown out and then compete the next week. So maybe last week was just an aberration, but each one of these final regular season games, you're right, massively important for the direction of the Tennessee Titans.
Tyler Dunne, our guest on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. GoLongTD.com is where you can find him. And The Blood and Guts, How Tight Ends Save Football. Check that out on Amazon. Need a good last-minute gift for a football fan in your life. We highly recommend it. And Tyler, always appreciate the time as always, man.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. And if people want to subscribe to the site annually, we'll send you a signed copy of The Blood and Guts for free. So
Nice.
GoLongTD.com. Appreciate y'all.
Love it.
Thanks, Tyler.
There's Tyler Dunne with us this morning on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Love anyone who will come in and just take a flamethrower to one of us at the beginning of the interview.
That's great. I'm here for it.
Fantastic.
By the way, there's a quarterback that's back starting.
There is a quarterback that's back starting. A great tease by radio professional Tyler Anderson.
Oh, that's my mean one.
As one New York quarterback will not be able to go on Sunday. Look out if you are not only a Cougar like Kayla Anderson, but maybe in another way. Because there's another quarterback back as QB1 this weekend. Final segment of the show next on 104.5 The Zone.
Oh, my God.
This song really is a serotonin boost at the end of the show. Anytime we talk about Zach Wilson on this show this song plays.
For Zach, it's a different type of boost.
Best producer in the world making the show happen, Jonathan Schaefer. Will Bowling, Kayla Anderson with you. Ramon Foster will be back with us next week. Zach Wilson is starting at quarterback for the New York Football Jets. Robert Saleh saying Mike White is an absolute warrior, but this is going to be a great opportunity for Zach. Mike Wilson, not Mike Wilson. He was on the show with us earlier this morning. This is Mike White. Mike Keith also on. Big day for Mike.
It is a Mike show.
Very Mike-heavy show. We're talking into Mike's.
Yeah.
Mike White, reportedly, according to Adam Schefter, wanted to play and has practiced, but Jets doctors are not signing off on it. So Zach Wilson is back as the Jets quarterback. Notice how very clear they made that to Adam Schefter that, well, we really wanted Mike to play, and Zach's not our starter, but Zach Wilson's going to play.
So that tells me that they're like, all right, here, Zach, you got a chance. If you don't do what you need to do, we're not going to move forward. I just see this being a turning point 100% for this team in terms of its quarterback. Because I don't think they have belief in this guy anymore.
Let's add another Mike.
Mike Jones.
Yes.
There you go. And Mike Roberts, who apparently that's what someone called Mike Keith recently.
Yeah, it was a story from a long time ago, but Mike was introduced at a function as Mike Roberts. Wacky FM DJ guy.
All right, coming up next, we're going to have
Was that like
Jonathan
a thing?
Schaefer.
Hey, it's Ink Spot and Squeegee in the morning.
Do you really have to make your voice sound like that, or is that what?
The untalented ones.
Okay.
Do that.
Oh, wow. I don't
care.
out the U word. 9:48 on a Friday.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, we don't do the corny fake voice on this show.
No.
I think some people think I
who's calling
probably
the
have a
hotline?
natural.
No.
But don't you think this is his job now to complete they could be done with him? Will
Be done with Zach Wilson?
Wilson.
Oh yeah, I think they're already done with him. I think he's done there.
You think they're just doing a courtesy because they have to?
Oh, I mean, they don't have.
They got.
they don't have Mike White. They have Flacco.
They have Flacco.
I mean, they have an elite backup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they'd maybe play Flacco.
Well, that's fair. I don't know because they'd already made the decision to promote Zach to backup and
That
to have
sounds so weird.
Flacco down.
This
And
is
out of
so
those
bad.
quarterbacks in that class, it doesn't surprise me that Zach Wilson is the one that hasn't met the expectations.
No.
I mean, it's been a tough year for the sophomore slumps of those quarterbacks and of just the young quarterback slumps.
Yeah.
For him and for Mac Jones both specifically. Been a tough year for those guys up in the Northeast. But Toyota Keys to the Game brought to you by your Middle Tennessee Toyota dealers for the Titans and Chargers this weekend. And Kayla, we will start with you on your keys to a Titans win.
Well, I'll start on defense. I just think it's so important. We've been talking about finding a way to create turnovers. I don't know if that can just magically happen, but I do know this. You need to at least try, right? And it's starting with putting pressure on the quarterback. We talked about kind of batting down passes, just finding a way. I know it's going to be scrappy because there's going to be plug-and-play players, but there's no excuses at this point. The defense knows how important it is to this team. So I'll start with that.
I've in the past couple weeks with these have looked to, hey, I want the Titans to do something else really well. Show us the plan B, show us the passing game, show us a secondary to take the next step forward. I think you keep it basic this week for me. Get back to what you do really, really well. I don't need to see, a new path to victory. Just win in a Titans, Mike Vrabel, ugly Titans way.
Okay.
Get after the quarterback, force turnovers, and run the football.
Yeah.
Save the evolving and taking that next step. We'll worry about that when Dallas comes to town because you're going to have to do something else differently in order to beat them. Against the number 28 run defense of the NFL, this should be a Derrick Henry game. So be predictable and good.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Learn from last game and the mistakes you made can't happen. Just can't happen.
Yep, I'm with you. Fun show today.
Yeah.
Went by quick. Appreciate Mike Wilson, Mike Keith, Tyler Dunne for stopping by with us. Appreciate you for joining us on another great week. We are back at it Monday morning. as we begin Christmas week on Ramon, Kayla, and
Yoo-hoo!
Will. But right now, this music means it is time for Macho Man Todd Titan getting you ready for game day and sending you out with an exclamation point. Buck Rising next, but Todd Titan takes over for the final minutes of our week.
Oh, yeah! It's great to be back. Yeah, it's been a tough couple of weeks for the Macho Man and a tough couple of weeks for the Tennessee Titans, yeah. But I'm back up to 100%, and the Titans are going to get back to where they need to be as well, because we travel to Los Angeles on Sunday, yeah, the city of angels, yeah. And I can promise you one thing, Chargers, you will meet every single angel on Sunday, because the Titans are going to get back to a brand of football that you haven't seen in a while, and that's physical, and that's going to be punishing you, and that's going to be running the football smash mouth in your face and play tons and tons of defense, yeah, because that's what the Titans do, yeah. We do our best work when our backs against the wall and all the critics and the fans want to turn their backs, yeah, but we're not ready to give up just yet, because on Sunday,